I'm Dom Famularo. I live in New York, but I travel all around the world. And last year I traveled 222,000 miles. That's about 9 times around the world. So it's very easy to forget who I am. I live on Long Island, and Long Island is about, now where I live, it's about 1 hour out of New York City. So when I grew up, I was close to New York City. I was about 15 minutes out of New York City. So I was very close to New York City, and in New York City, in the 1960s and 70s, all of the greatest drummers in the world were playing there at the time, and they still play there. And at that time it was Buddy Rich and Louis Bellston and Max Roach and Tony Williams and Roy Haynes and Art Blakey and Ed Thigpen and Elvin Jones. All the greatest drummers in the world were playing in New York. So as a young kid, I would go to New York and I would hear all of these great legends perform. And the clubs were small. So when you sat, you were close to the drums. So not only were you able to see and hear what the drummers were doing, but you could really feel what they were doing. You felt the heat of their body. You saw the sweat coming down, and you could really be inspired by what they were playing. So all these great legendary drummers, Mel Lewis, Sonny Payne, Papa Joe Jones, Philly Joe Jones, all these guys, I would go to see it. So that was the first incredible understanding of inspiration that I just said, these guys are such great artists. That's what I want to do. My first love is to perform. I love performing. And at 17 years old, I had many drummers that would come to me at my performances and ask me, boy, Dom, I like your left hand. What are you doing with your left hand? Boy, Dom, you have some good independence. What are you doing with that? So I began to explain to them about how to be able to play with more comfort, more independence, more technique. And as I began to do that, it was fun to see the students learn. When they learned, that inspired me equally to performing. So I said, wow, gosh, I love performing, but now I love teaching. So I started teaching, I continued performing, then I started playing different drumming clinics. I started getting calls from different music stores and different schools and universities to come by and play for them, and I started doing clinics. So as I started doing these clinics, then many manufacturers saw me doing these clinics and said, gee, Dom, what you're doing is really very good. We'd like you to do the clinics for us. So then I got involved with manufacturers, and then they began to book my clinics worldwide. So next thing I know, I was performing and writing books and teaching and doing clinics, and then the clinics opened up to the world. This has been crazy. This is now I think I've performed in over 70 countries, playing clinics, playing drum festivals, performing with some bands. So it's been a little bit of everything. Writing books, I published different books, and it really has gotten much bigger than I ever could have expected. That mentality is an old school mentality that they think if you want to play, you should only play. Well, if you think about it, a lot of the greatest drummers in the world who are phenomenal players also teach. Peter Erskine, Dave Weckl, Thomas Lang, Virgil Zanoni. These are brilliant artists, but they also teach because even the great painters, Da Vinci was a teacher. He had a bodega of students, and he painted, and he taught the students because the object that Da Vinci felt, and Michelangelo did it too, all these great, great painters realized the only way I can continue painting in the art form is I have to train the next generation to understand the craft. And that's what I really saw. I said, I really want to be a part of sharing this information so the next generation continues the process. And then when I met up with Joe Morello and Jim Chapin and Max Roach and Shelley Mann and Ted Reed, these were great players and great teachers. And I just saw both sides. I said, wow, these guys, when they play, they're great artists. But then when you get them in a room, they know how to explain it. That to me was unbelievable. I wanted that because that's really the commitment of continuing on the momentum of the art form, to be able to explain it and teach it and inspire the next generation and continue performing. It's not either or, it's both. That's the balance of where we are now in the 21st century.